So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I created the running directory, which is a local business directory that allows people in Canada to find running races and run clubs. I created the entire site in 48 hours, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how I did it so that you can create your own local directory using no-code tools. Friends, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to share with you a brand new project that I literally launched about 5 minutes ago, and it's called the running directory. Now, the running directory is a local business directory, or database that allows people who are into running to find local races. Now, the idea behind it is pretty simple and straightforward. You can simply use our search and filtering to basically find different races that are going on right now. And also, if you want to network with people, if you want to kind of meet your running crew, we also have a collection of run clubs that you'll be able to find by different cities. Now, I created this entire site because I recently got into running, probably like a year ago, and I actually ran my first marathon last May, and I got really into it. And so what I wanted to do is combine my passion for building sites like this as well as running and create a resource that will hopefully help plenty other people get into running. Now, if you are passionate about something else, then this guide is really going to take you through the step-by-step process that I went through in order to create the running directory. Now, we've got quite a few things to cover, so let's just start off with the first part of it all, which is to create the website. Now, the tool that I used in order to create the website is a Webflow, and I also used what's called Relume Components in order to really quickly spin up the site. But just first of all, let's go over the different pages that I have. So I wanted to keep it super simple in the first iteration, so I only have 4 static pages. I've got the home page, then I've got a listings page with search and filtering for my races. I also have a similar page for my different run clubs, and then I also have a contact page which has a few different links that will allow people who visit the website to suggest new run clubs or races. And when someone clicks on this, it simply opens up a form that people can fill out, and that will then populate my database with more information so that I can then expand on my directory. Now, in case you are new to Webflow, Webflow also has an internal tool called the Webflow CMS. Now, when you're creating directory sites and you want to, create template pages for your different races or your run clubs, then what you can do is you can simply create what's called CMS collections, which is essentially an internal database that allows you to store information that you'll then later use in order to create your race pages, or also your cards that you'll then see on your listing pages. And so this is what the behind the scenes of it looks like. It's super simple and straightforward. I've got a field for the race title, I've got a field for my location, I've got an image in here, I've got the event date, and then I also have a few other labels that I'm using for various parts of the card. And as soon as I then start populating it, it essentially generates a card that looks a little bit like this. And if we have a little bit of a look into more detail, you can see that it is pulling the information from my database, which then allows you to create all of these nice little preview cards without needing to create it all individually. Now, when you create a CMS collection inside of Webflow, it will also create a template page for you. So if you wanted to create a more profile-rich details page, you'll be able to do this. But in the first iteration of the site, I just didn't even want to overcomplicate it, so I haven't yet created it. So whenever someone goes and clicks on one of these cards, it will actually redirect the website visitor directly to the registration page of this site. Now, just in terms of the process that I went through in order to create the page. Now, obviously you can build everything from scratch. However, what I have found to be an absolute hack when working with Webflow is to actually just use Relume components. Now, like I said before, Relume is a component library that you can use to really speed up the process, and they actually have an app inside of Webflow that allows you to effortlessly pull in different components from different sites. And so specifically with the listing pages, all I had to do is simply copy the element, and then I could just simply drop it right into the page, and it would then automatically import all of my styles and then just apply it to the element in question. So then all that I needed to do is to just go in here and just make whatever adjustments I need, and I can then also jump in here and start making some stylistic changes. So if, for example, I want to change the background color, I can actually just access the variables that I've currently got stored inside of my variables panel and just populate it with different elements in here. So in short, if you have used Relume in the past, you'll obviously know how incredibly powerful it is. If you are brand new to building sites with Webflow, then this is definitely something that you'll want to look into, simply because it will save you a lot of time when it comes to assembling the site and also making it mobile responsive. Now, the next part in the process is to then take your CMS and turn it into a database. And the tool that I'm using to basically run my database is Airtable. So in here you can see a table for my races, you can see a table for all of my run clubs, you can see a table for the different locations and cities that I have. I also have a table for the different provinces in Canada, and also because I am collecting mailing list signups on my site, I also have a table where I can send any mailing list submission that looks like that. Now, the most important tables that you're going to have in here are the races table, the run club table, city, and province, because these tables are directly linked to the Webflow CMS. So my recommendation for anyone who is just getting started with this is to build out all of your CMS collections inside of Webflow first, figure out what individual fields you're going to need in order to create your preview cards or even your detail pages, and as soon as you have created all of these different fields, jump into your Airtable base and create the corresponding fields. So if, for example, you have a field inside of your Webflow CMS for the event title, then you'll want to create the same field inside of Airtable. Same thing for location, same thing for links to the city or province page, same things with the date field. And also there might be instances where you'll want to create fields inside of Airtable that you then later on also create inside of Webflow. One of those fields, for example, is this formula field that calculates how much time there is until the actual race day. Now, this is one of the advantages of using a tool like Airtable. You can do really fancy and advanced things like calculate the time between the start date and today, and then it creates a dynamic label that you can then send back to a Webflow, which then in turn will create these nice fun little labels that says things like 10 days to go, 2 weeks to go, and so on. Now, as soon as you've gone through the process of creating all of the different fields for your tables, then you'll be in a position where you can actually start setting up the workflow that syncs data from Airtable to Webflow. Now, there are a lot of different tools that you can use in order to create the syncing functionality between two database sources like Airtable and Webflow. The tool that I used in this particular project is Whalesync. Now, I've used Whalesync a lot in the past, but especially for this particular project, it's been incredibly useful. Now, if you've never heard of Whalesync before, the way it works is super simple. Step number one is that you create your account and then you connect your Airtable base and your Webflow site. As soon as you've connected your accounts, you'll be able to import all of the different tables that you have inside of Airtable and all of the different CMS collections that you have inside of Webflow. Now, because you've created a corresponding table in Airtable for every single one of your Webflow CMS collections, you'll be able to map those tables up to each other. And as soon as you've mapped those tables up to each other, you'll also be able to create a link between the fields inside of Airtable and the corresponding Webflow CMS collection. So for example, if we have a look at our Run Clubs table, I've got a field for the day of the week, I've got a field for the description, the meeting day, the meeting location, I've got the logo that I'm using, and then I have a few other fields. And inside of Whalesync, what I'm doing is I am mapping those Airtable fields to the Webflow CMS fields. So for example, wherever I am using my profile picture, I want that field to map to my logo field inside of the Webflow CMS. And so you can see in here, we've got a field inside of the Webflow CMS called logo. And so whenever I add information to the profile picture field inside of Airtable, it will automatically sync that data from Airtable to Webflow. Now, another thing that is very nice and unique about Whalesync is that it actually works as a bi-directional sync, meaning that if you were to make any changes inside of Webflow, so let's say for example we jump into our Webflow CMS collection and we change the logo directly inside of Webflow. Now, as soon as you hit the save button, what Whalesync will do is it will actually also sync the changed information from Webflow back into Airtable, meaning that you'll always have your information in sync across all your different platforms. Now, the beautiful thing about Whalesync, especially when you compare it to automation tools like Make.com, is that it is super simple and easy to set up. Now, a tip that I have for anyone using this for the first time, make sure that when you're setting up the Webflow CMS collection to use the exact same name that you're using for, say, your logo field inside of Airtable, because what Make will do is it will what Whalesync will do is it will automatically detect what fields are related to each other and map them up for you, which makes the process even simpler. One more feature that is incredibly powerful in Whalesync is the filter feature. Now, obviously there'll be certain instances where you'll add a new record that you might not necessarily want to see live inside of your Webflow site. So what you can do is you can set a filter to say, hey, I only want information to sync when the status of the record is active. And so what you can do is you can go into your project, you can set your status to active, and it will then only factor in records inside of Airtable and Webflow that have the status of active. And this is a real good mechanism to ensure that you can control, data inside of Airtable without it automatically updating inside of your Webflow site. Now, just a little tip before getting into this, you will need to set up these filters when you set it up initially. So you'll see after you've mapped it for the very first time that you've got your filter field, and what you'll just want to do is just add that filter before the syncing process starts, because you cannot change it afterwards. Now, before I move on from Whalesync, there was one more feature that was launched literally a few days ago that I'd recommend anyone who's just getting started try out. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite ready by the time I made this video, but basically what this feature does is it auto creates tables. And had this been out before I started working on this site, I would have definitely used this method. Now, what does it do? So basically what this will allow you to do is to jump in here into the Webflow CMS, set up your different collections, and then as soon as your collections are set up, what you typically have to do is, like I said, come into Airtable, create your individual tables, and then create all your individual fields, which again is time consuming, and there's obviously also room to make mistakes or forget fields. But what auto create tables will allow you to do is to simply create a new table inside of Airtable, so you can then go ahead, select the fields that you want to create fields for, and it will then automatically generate them and create that sync between your Webflow and your Airtable data source. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, which is to talk about how to find and populate your database with information. Now, depending on what kind of directory you're building, you'll probably already have a data source that you're going to use as your seed database. And so really what I look for in the first iteration is just high quality data. So I don't really use mass scraping tools because I oftentimes find that the actual quality of data just goes down significantly. But what I have done is I have identified that most of the run clubs specifically have Instagram accounts, and from here what I can do is I can simply come into the Instagram account, and what I've done is I've created a little web clipper that allows me to automatically import the information into my Airtable database. And so this is what it looks like. It imports the name of the run club, it imports the link that is associated with it, it will also save the profile picture, and it will also take all the information that sits inside of the description field and pull it in as well. Now all I need to do then is click on add record, and what will happen is this information will then automatically be pulled from Instagram into my Airtable account with all of the information pre-populated. Now I also have that is basically what I'm doing to seed data. I also have a way to enrich data, and so as you can see, I've got a whole bunch of additional fields. For example, the meeting date time and also the meeting location. What I have done is I've set up a workflow that reads through the entire description, and as it's reading through the description, it basically pulls out values like this that I can then later on use for search and filtering. Now this is again a feature that you can set up directly inside of your Airtable account. It's an app called the Web Clipper, and I've created two web clippers, one for the races and one for my run clubs. Now one of the things that is really awesome about the Airtable Web Clipper is that you may have noticed that when I was site, it automatically pulled in the information, and the way that I do that is by targeting text content by CSS collector. Now this is a more advanced technique, but basically what you can do is you can identify some of the elements on a page, and you can then basically look at what the CSS classes are that surround certain types of content, and then you can target the content within a specific class. Now I don't want to overcomplicate this because this is definitely a more advanced thing, but it's a workflow that will really speed up the process for finding high quality data when it comes to using the Airtable Web Clipper. Now, the last key feature or tool that I want to show you is the tool that I'm currently using to do search and filtering. So you can see on my race pages and on my run club pages that I've got search and filtering inbuilt into the site, which just makes for a significantly better user experience. The way that I do that is by using what's called the Finsweet CMS Filter. Now, the way that the Webflow CMS filter works is super simple and straightforward. The first step is that you need to install a script on your Webflow project. You'll be able to find it on the Finsweet attributes page, and I'll leave a link to that down below. But then all you need to do is to just simply tag the elements inside of your collection cards, so in this case my race cards, and also the filters that you're using, so that when you then select different filters, it identifies those filters inside of your different cards. Now, how does this work in a real practical sense? So the first step is, once you've installed your script, then what you need to do is just identify the different elements that are currently, going to be used for the search and filtering. So the first thing that we'll want to tag is the actual CMS collection list that contains all of the different items that we want to filter by. So what you do is you simply come in here, you select your collection list, and then you just add the attributes of fs minus CMS filter minus element list. And then you also do the same for your filters, and the custom attribute that you want to use in that particular case, if fs minus CMS filter minus element filters. And as soon as you've tagged your filters and you've tagged your list, then what you'll be able to do is to select the individual fields inside of your filters and inside of your collection items to then enable the searching functionality. So for example, in here, what I'm doing is I am selecting my distance marker here of 5 kilometers, and I'm saying, hey, this is the distance field that I want to filter by. And then all you need to do is just tag that element inside of your card, and then whenever someone clicks on 5 kilometers, it will look at your card, it will identify it, and it will then automatically filter out all elements or all cards that fit that particular criteria. And you can really take things super far with this. You can do this, for example, for things like day of the week. You can also do things like apply tags, you know, so if you want to find beer runs specifically, it will check whether or not certain records have tags associated with them. If you are looking for morning runs, you'll see, you know, morning runs, that type of stuff. And so in short, this is a really easy and simple way to create the search and filtering functionality that you typically see on directory sites. Now, like I said, I'm going to leave a link to all of the Finsweet attributes documentation down below. It has really in-depth explainers as to how to set it all up, and you can test it all. But as soon as you've got it set up once, it'll be pretty simple and straightforward to go. And another thing that's really awesome about this is besides the CMS filter, they also have a whole bunch of additional attributes that you can use to do really advanced things. For example, the CMS slider, and the CMS slider is what I'm using on my homepage in order to create this functionality where you can basically swipe through all of the different collection items that are currently featured on the homepage. So this is definitely a slightly technical resource. However, as soon as you get the hang of the basics, it will allow you to do so many powerful things. Okay, so where are we with things now? So all up, building out the MVP for this, and that includes, you know, the designing of the site. It also includes all of the backend functionality that syncs data. Took me 2 days, 2 8-hour shifts, so about 16 hours. Now, I've built sites like these a lot, so if you are brand new to this, it definitely won't take you 16 hours. However, what I have found is if you don't come from a coding background, these tools are hands down the best when it comes to hitting the ground running. And so I've got a bunch of tutorials on my website that I'll point you towards. I also have an online community where you'll get access to more in-depth tutorials specifically around this particular project. But if you do have any questions in terms of how to get started, definitely feel free to leave any comments in the description down below. And then one last little thing that I wanted to say. So the cost for running a site like this at the moment is going to be roughly $100 a month for all of the different tools that I'm using. So you'll have to pay for things like the Webflow CMS plan, which is a monthly cost for, you know, hosting the website. And then you'll also need to pay for Whalesync, and then you'll also have Airtable as a tool, which costs roughly $20 a month. But building a site like this should cost you no more than $100 a month to run. There'll be some miscellaneous costs like buying domains, you know, that type of stuff. But other than that, if you just want to get going, it's super easy and straightforward to do. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention. So some of you might be wondering, well, how are you going to make money off this site? So in the first iteration of all this, my main focus is to just populate the database, populate it with high quality information, and let the SEO kick in. But then in the future, I'm going to start adding more categories, specifically services that people offer runners. So that can be things like physios, it can be things like running coaches, it can be things like, you know, maybe even special promos to different events that are going on. And so there are a lot of opportunities in this particular market. I mean, I personally spent like $1 gazillion last year on race shoes and stuff like that. So there are a lot of opportunities, but if you are looking for a way to monetize your site fast before your entire database is up and running, another thing that I've just added on the website is that if a race organizer needs help with event marketing, then there's something that I can do. You know, it's a really great way to kind of just hit the ground running, make connections with people in the space, and to add value immediately. So, you know, you don't necessarily need to monetize the core of the site from day one. You can offer just adjacent services. And so it doesn't hurt just putting at the bottom of the site that you do offer these types of services. And, you know, maybe if you're lucky, someone will reach out and will just basically want your help with something like marketing. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the description down below. So if you want to learn more about this, if you want to rebuild something like this, if you have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know. Also, keep an eye out on the channel because I'm going to be making a whole bunch of follow-up tutorials in regards to this, specifically about how I built certain types of features. So if you haven't already, be subscribed to the channel. Other than that, thank you so much for watching the entire video, and I'll see you back here for the next one. Bye.